Dozens of new anime are released every year. Some get really popular, some just fade away into obscurity. Sometimes fame is given to genuinely good shows, other times actually great shows get pushed to the side because worse shows catch everyone's attention. Other times the word and anime might be great, just doesn't spread and they are left with a small fan base. This is a list to give those great shows that never truly got popular a second chance to shine. These shows may not all be masterpieces, but they are shows that I believe deserve more attention than they received. Now before we start with this list, there's going to be a couple of rules I'm going to point out. Rule number 1. This is not a list for shows that were popular when they aired and simply lost their fan base over time. Those shows had their time in the sun and people moved on. This is a list for shows that never truly got popular in the first place. Rule number 2. I am the one who will judge if a show is popular or not based on how often I see it discussed, both in real life and online, and based off the popularity ranking on anime sites such as Mal and Hummingbird. Rule number 3. There are no long runners on this list, as in order for a show to become a long runner in the first place, they need to be popular. And finally, rule number 4. This is not a top list. This is a list of anime which I feel are underrated. There is no stopping me from making another list about this later on. Now that we've gotten the rules out of the way, let's begin. This is a show that used to be a lot more underrated than it is now. This is thanks to a large amount of big YouTubers talking about it. If I had made this list 5 years ago, this show would be near the top of the list. The premise of this show is somewhat difficult to explain, as it tells 3 different stories and then brilliantly connects them together. But the main part of the show revolves around a train robbery conducted by the Mafia in the 40s, and the people around it. This show is one of my favorites of all times, as it is, in my opinion, the best crime anime out there. If you like the idea of The Godfather told in the style of Guy Ritchie, like in the movie Snatch for example, then I highly recommend you watch this anime. The light novel was written by the same person who wrote Aurora, and if that makes you more interested. Heck, the comedy relief character of the show occasionally makes cameos in Aurora. When this show first aired, I assumed it would become super popular because it was written by Hiromu Arakawa, the creator of FMA, but it had the misfortune of airing at the same time as Attack on Titan. That being said, since it was made by Hiromu Arakawa, it did do pretty well anyways. This show is about a city boy who moves to the country to go to an agricultural school, and about his life as a student there. While a lot of people might be confused about how Arakawa went from an action shonen like FMA to a comedy slice of life about agriculture, it makes a lot of sense once you read about Arakawa's past. She was born in a farming community in Hokkaido, and this show is based loosely on her experiences there. This makes the show feel a lot more personal. I don't want to go into too much detail here, but if you are all interested in this story, or if Attack on Titan just eclipses the show like it did for so many other people, I hope you give the show a watch. This show didn't get popular for 2 very obvious reasons. 1, it has terrible animation, and 2, it's about ping pong. These 2 factors are the reason why this became one of those shows that people just ignored on a season chart. Again, much like Baccano, it has gained some popularity from YouTubers talking about it, but it is still a lot less popular than a show like Baccano. This show is about a group of high schoolers who are part of a ping pong club at their school. Because it's their talent, they enter a ping pong tournament, and they have to make a decision about whether they can make ping pong a career or not, or if that's something they really want to do with their life. While they may make this show sound like it's about ping pong, in reality you could replace ping pong with anything, and it would have been the same show. The show is about the characters and their journey. This is a sports anime in name only, as this is a show about adolescents who are confused about what they want to do with their future. I made a review about this show a couple years back, and although it was in my old terrible reviewing style, I still stand by the praise I gave the show. It is one of my favorite shows of all time, and no one seems to know it exists. You see, this show was made by Studio Shaft pre-Monogatari, aka pre anyone really caring about Shaft. This leaves the show to go unnoticed by so many people. This show is 2 romance stories that are tied together by how the 2 female characters are sisters. It is essentially about how 2 sisters have their own romantic life. This is a show very similar to Clannad, and if you enjoy that, you will love this show. I have been thinking of remaking my review for the show for a while. If anyone would want to see a new review of the show, let me know. This is an anime that sounds silly on paper, an animated, sci-fi, Count of Monte Cristo adaptation, but it just works so well. This is a show that's probably the best adaptation of the Count of Monte Cristo that has ever been made, and I do not say that lightly. It is one of those shows that if you say the name, Genkutsu, people will have no idea what you're talking about. This show is a reimagining of the Count of Monte Cristo from the perspective of the bad guy's son. This allows the show to take on the old source material and transform it into something new. It shows you the effects of the Count's actions and makes the story a lot more grey. This, along with the beautiful art style, makes this a must watch for almost anyone. I have a full review of this show if you want to know more about it, but I highly recommend you go and watch the show. This is a show that I would not be surprised to find out no one who watches this video has actually seen before. Koikaze is one of those shows that once people are told the premise, instantly lump it into all the emotive romances that came out in the early 2010s, despite the fact that the show came out in 2004. As you probably already guessed based on the introduction for the show, this show is about incest. The way this show is different, however, is that it doesn't sexualize it at all and takes a much more realistic approach to the topic. This show uses real research and portrays the Westermark effect theory really well. The characters in the show don't want to be attracted to each other and are often disgusted with themselves for it. This isn't a rom-com with Little Sister, but a realistic drama about two people struggling with their attraction for each other. I will start off by saying that I have no idea how to pronounce the name of this show, so I'll just try and avoid saying the name altogether. This is a show about immoral detectives and a specific set of cases they solve over the course of the better part of a century. Where this show shines is in how it shows the change of technology over time. The show starts in the 1990s and ends in the 2060s. Each one of 6 episodes jumps forward several years into the future and shows how technology has and will change over time. This is also one of those few anime where the episodes are 45 minutes long, which was essential to make it a show as well paced as it is. Now of course, being a show about immortals, there are a lot of usual tropes such as show questioning of whether or not being immortal is actually a good thing, and so on. But even that works within this show. The only real negative I can say about the show, without going into too much detail, is that when they claim that vodka means water in Russian.
Vodka means water in Russian, you know.
This is actually wrong. The word for vodka in Russian has the same root as the word for water, but they are not the same word. The word for water in Russian is voda, which although sounds like vodka, is different. This entry is kinda cheating as it is technically 2 shows, but since they are only 1 episode each and are from the same contest, I will allow it. These are 2 short films from the Young Animator Training Project, which I will now on refer to as the anime Mirai. So technically speaking, these anime were funded by the Japanese government. Now, Death Billiards is a short film that is probably best known for being inspiration behind Death Parade, which many of you watching this has probably already seen. Now, why should someone go back and watch Death Billiards instead of just watching Death Parade, you might ask? The answer is very simple. Death Billiards is a more complete experience than Death Parade. Being a spin-off TV series instead of a short film, Parade had to expand on a lot of ideas that were left vague in the original short film, simply because the TV series needs more runtime. The problem with this is they got rid of a lot of the mystery elements that were in the original short film, as you couldn't keep the main theme secret for 12 episodes. This is one of the main reasons that I consider Death Billiards to be better than Death Parade, but this is getting off topic and we can explain this more later. As for Harmony, this is another short film, but unlike Death Billiards, never got a spin-off despite the fact that it would make a lot more sense to give one to Harmony than it would to Death Billiards. This is a film you should just go watch as it is just 20 minutes long. Trust me, you won't regret it. I actually had to edit this list last minute to put this show on. This is an anime that I found completely on accident when I saw my school had a VHS copy of this movie. The only reason I watched this is because I thought the cover looked cool, and I'm glad I did. This is a movie that is made up of 3 different short films, and each one of them is great in their own way. I went into this movie completely blind and I recommend you do the same, so I won't spoil anything. That being said, go watch it. Just find 2 hours and watch it. The animation for this movie looks better than a lot of the stuff coming out nowadays, despite the fact that it's from the 90s. The one thing I will give away though, is that this movie was written by Satoshi Kon, and if you know who he is, that should be all it takes to get you to watch it. And before we go on to number 1, we need to talk about some of the honorable mentions. Nichijou is a very funny comedy made by Kyotoani that, although having its own cult following, doesn't get nearly the love it deserves. It doesn't get on this list, however, because I actually haven't seen it yet. Ironic, I know. Also, good on Funimation for finally licensing the show. Usagi Drops is a great show about a single man who unexpectedly has to take care of a little girl and learn how to be a good father. This doesn't make onto the list because despite not having the biggest fan base, it still got pretty big when it aired. Samurai Flamenco is a show which tried to be Batman mixed with Power Rangers, which fell apart in the second half after an amazing first half. This is not listed because it had quite a large following when it first aired, and the second half was a piece of shit. It was absolute garbage, with an ending that qualifies for one of the worst endings in anime award. Make no mistake by this being number 1 on this list. This is not the greatest show in the world. It has its problems, but that doesn't stop it from being one of the most criminally underrated shows out there. Much like you can probably guess from the title of the show, this is a show about alcohol and bars. It is an episodic show about a bartender who solves people's problems by providing them just the right drink for the occasion. Whether it's just 2 family members reuniting after a long time apart, or a businessman who needs a break, he always has the right thing ready. It also happens to be one of the most relaxing shows I've ever seen. It's the type of show where you can easily just come home after a long day's work and just grab a beer or something harder if you like, and just relax with the show on while the characters drink with you. So if ever life feels hard, just grab a drink, turn on the show, and to quote Jan Wenley, humans have been drinking alcohol for 5,000 years, and they are still drinking it now. Alcohol is a friend to humanity, so how can I abandon a friend? That is it for this video. If you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, it is @MapEns99, and until next time, thanks for watching.